Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest book review here on my YouTube channel. I'm getting over sickiness and I'm cold, so I'm literally, I've got a heater in here and my blanket, so I'm snuggled up. This is a perfect morning to talk about books and read books. I finished the first book in the Amber Chronicles, the Chronicles of Amber, last night by Roger Zelazny, Nine Princes of Amber, and we're going to be talking about that book today. Um, if this is your first time tuning into one of my book reviews, it's one of the things I do here on YouTube, but I don't do it as frequently as all the gaming content. But I do occasionally review books, shows, movies, so on and so forth. So if you like that kind of stuff and this is your first time tuning in, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content that I do. And of course, don't forget you can join our Discord. Links are down below. And if you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is to head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/wandering hermits. It's where we are producing The World of the Weave and the Void, which is the map behind me. I'm writing a book series there, which is we publish chapters twice a month with artwork from my wife. And then my brother and I are also working on a point and click adventure game. And we have a 5th edition tabletop setting with a source book and modules, and all of which is coming out later this year. So if you want to support, like I said, best way is go over there. You can pick up a subscription for $3 a month, which gets you access to the chapters of the book as they're published. Buy me a cup of coffee. You could also pre-order the source books and everything else for the 5th edition campaign, or you can pre-order the point and click game. All of those are great ways to help out with what I do here on YouTube. So I appreciate it. Let's dive in. So, if you're not familiar with Roger Zelazny, he is probably, I mean, he's definitely my top three, like my top three favorite writers of all time. He doesn't write epic fantasy. He wrote what I would consider to be like a lot of like serialized science fiction and short stories and short novels. So this was a guy who came up during the 70s, basically in the 60s, 70s into the 80s, when epic fantasy and epic science fiction wasn't really a thing. But the Chronicles of Amber came close to that because it is a multi-book series spanning the course of time and also space and a little bit of other crazy stuff. And it's about the character of Corwin and then later his son. And it's not epic in the sense that these are not big novels. These come in really short. I mean, if you power read, you can easily go through one of these books in a day. But this is as close to like epic fantasy kind of got during the time that he wrote this. And the first book is a great example of Zelazny's kind of signature first person style, which is one of the things I loved about him. And it's one of the reasons he always was up there as one of my favorite authors because I really liked the way he did first person. So you've got stories like Road Marks, which I still think is one of my favorite, but Lord of Light, and then just he's got a whole slew of really good books. But the Chronicles of Amber has always stood out to me as one of my favorite series. And if in this first book we're introduced to the character of Corwin, who when the book starts off doesn't know who he is. He wakes up in a hospital with amnesia, and he has to sort of fake it till he makes it to get out of the hospital, and then quickly finds out as things unfold that he's part of something bigger, and that he's part of this family, and that this family rules this magical kind of like the Earth that we live on is like a copy of the real Earth, and the real Earth, um, but he's from. The city of Amber is where they're all from, where him and his siblings are from, and this first book opens up with him coming to grips with who he is and realizing what he's capable of, and that he could travel through dimensions, and so can his siblings, and everything is tied together with these tarot cards, which allow him to, contact siblings, so on and so forth. And we start to get a little bit of information about some of the siblings as time goes on. One of the things I love about Zelazny is his signature sort of. He does these really quirky one sentence statements, which the book is full of. And that's something I definitely emulated when I was a younger writer, and I was getting going. If you've ever read my Bloody Knuckles anthology, you can see that reflected in some of the stories because I was dabbling with first person at the time, and Zelazny was absolutely the go-to. That's where I went for my inspiration for the first person stuff, especially the Donovan stories. Even though those were set sort of in a far future and they were science fiction as opposed to fantasy, definitely took a huge inspiration from Zelazny and his works. So, this first book in the Amber Chronicles, like I said, it establishes Corwin, who he is, the family members, and his whole path through the first half of the book is sort of, or the first third maybe, is recovering his memory. And once he recovers his memory, it becomes this thing of, oh, well, the one brother who hates me and I hate him, and he's the one who's trying to take over the kingdom. Um, I'm gonna have to depose him. Like that, we can't let that happen. So he teams up with a couple of siblings and fails miserably. Um, and consequently finds himself thrown in the depths of the dungeons with his eyes burned out, and um, we then continue the adventure until he makes his escape. And along the way, we find out some stuff that is it comes into play throughout the further books. One of which, their dad is not dead. Um, Although what exactly is going on with him, we don't know yet. Two, the guy who drew the tarot cards and helped his dad set up a lot of the magic of the empire. He's actually in prison, but not in the traditional sense of being in prison. Like he could still come and go sort of as he pleases. Um, and we start to find out a little bit more about the magic of the cards, the magic of traveling, as they say, through shadow. Every realm being a shadow of the real realm, or another alternate dimension, alternate universe, however you want to describe it. So there's a lot of stuff on here, but unlike other authors who might dive in and write chapters and chapters and chapters about all of the workings of shadow and dimension traveling and the magic of the tarot cards and art and everything else, that just kind of gets skimmed over because Zelazny's focus here is on Corwin and his internal monologuing and his whole I you know I need to depose my brother. Now I need to get out of, first it's I got to get my memory back. Then it's I need to depose my brother. Then it's, oh shit, I failed at that. Now I need to get out of prison so that I can get my revenge. And so it's broken up into three acts like that. And by the end of the book, we see him making his escape. And that rolls right into the second book, The Guns of Avalon, which I started last night. Since I've been feeling under the weather, I've actually been getting a lot of reading done the last couple of days. So, um, yeah, I finished the first book last night. It's weird because I started it a few weeks ago and then initially got sick and was just like, I'm not doing anything other than watching TV. And now I'm getting slightly better and I'm getting back into my reading schedule, which is great. So finally wrapped this book up last night. And I don't think it's my favorite of the Chronicles of Amber books, but this first book, Nine Princesses of Amber, is a great introduction to the old series, and it gives you the necessary components to continue on through the series because now we know who all the players are, we know who all the brothers and sisters are, we know who the dad is, we know who is the guy who helped make the art, we know that dad's not dead, we suspect that Benedict, may or may not be dead, we're not sure. We know that multiple people, once Corwin escapes, um, somebody tries to contact him with the tarot cards and he manages to avoid that contact and remain anonymous. Um, so there's a lot going on here. Some of my favorite things about Corwin, I love his quick wit, and I love the fact that he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. We also find out that despite his good intentions, he does have a sinister side, and especially as we get into the second book, which we get an inkling of that in the first book, but it comes out later on. Um, that sinister side of him makes him, in some ways, just as evil as his older brother Eric, who he's trying to depose. And he does sort of recognize that as the book progresses, that this dark side of him, which he's sort of tried to leave behind, but it's just sort of like a part of the bloodline, so to speak, in the sense that this carries over with him. And in the past, it definitely influenced him and how he acted. Um, But I love this book. Like I said, it's a great introduction to this series. The fact that these individuals can travel through time, sort of time and space, and they can set up their own versions of different worlds, so they can create their own world out of shadow and then rule there as like a god or whatever they want to do, as well as travel through all these different dimensions, and they can sort of create things from nothing. So in a way, it makes them like deities, and of course they have super speed, some of them anyway. I mean, it's definitely stronger than other people. They regenerate. Um, they live for a very long time. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here with this series. It's a great introduction to the overall Amber Chronicles. So if you haven't read this by now, it's been out for a long time, 40 years, 50 years. I believe these came out in the mid to late 70s, the first of these. Um, and so you've had a long time to get caught up. So that's why this is, spoiler-ish. You should definitely read it if you haven't. It's a short read. It gets you into the series. You can buy this individually, or you can actually pick up the complete book of Amber, which is a book that contains all the volumes in one big novel that's the length of any Wheel of Time book. So um, this is when I go back to, even though it's like the precursor to epic fantasy in the sense that it was a series, but it wasn't like a 400,000 word novel per. Anyway, read it. Let me know what you think. If you like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, join our Discord below, and if you want to support the channel, go over to patreon.com/wandering hermit so you can pick up a subscription for $3 a month and get access to the book chapters as they're published twice a month. And of course, you can pre-order all the other stuff that we're working on there. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. I'm going to continue to bundle up here with my blanket this morning and go work on other stuff today. See you next time, everybody.